Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the TV Tray Sessions here at Guitar Talk with Todd at toddbeebemusic. Thank you guys so much for checking in. You know I love you guys. Please hit that subscribe button in the lower right hand corner. I really appreciate that. You guys know it, and thank you for being with us. We are always powered by Death Wish Coffee, Valhalla Java. You guys know that, so grab a cup, drink up, and join us here at the TV Tray Sessions. Great stuff. I don't know why I'm drinking left-handed. But anyways, today we have a extra special episode. I want to get into some cool memorabilia and things to kind of showcase on here. And we are going to talk about the great Howlin Wolf, Chester Burnett. I have a piece here behind me that was the AFTRA, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, that Howlin Wolf filled out when he applied to join the union and have that form filled out, which he needed to do to perform with the Rolling Stones on Shindig. Many of you have probably seen the famous clip of the Stones with Howlin Wolf, May 20th, 1965. It's all over YouTube. I'm going to put some links up here below in the description in case you haven't seen it. But Shindig was a show in the 60s that featured a lot of current music, a lot of rock and pop music was featured on there, and the Rolling Stones were invited to go on in 65, and one of their stipulations was, we're not coming on unless we can bring Howlin Wolf with us, which is so cool. I mean, come on. You know, that's just awesome. To me, that exact show was like the pinnacle of when the blues rock era kicked in, 1965. A lot of, American kids, if you will, that were watching Shindig at that particular time had never heard of Howlin Wolf. Actually, a lot of them may not even have been super familiar with the Rolling Stones. They were brand new at that time and had only been around and out for like a year or so, but they were climbing up the charts with their hits. That's why they were on the show. So most kids probably did know them, but I'm sure there was a few that weren't familiar with them at that given time, or maybe didn't know what they looked like or whatever. But most people watching that show definitely weren't familiar with who Chester Burnett, Howlin Wolf, was. So the Stones brought him on. And like I said, this is a contract. I'm going to get some close-ups of this. Just a really cool piece. I'm going to pan in on this so you guys can see it close up. But it's basically got the AFTRA, as they call it, American Federation Television and Radio Artists, AFTRA, that Howlin Wolf filled out. It's in two different pens here. One of them, someone filled it out and wrote it as 2120 South Michigan Avenue being his address, which of course we all know is the historic Chess Records building in Chicago, which is now Willie Dixon's Blues Heaven. My wife Connie and I, many of you know, were the first ones that got married at 2120 South Michigan Avenue in 2002. I think Sugar Blue was the second one to get married there a few years later. But so pretty proud of that, but it's a really cool place. That was Wolf's label, Chess, all through his life, pretty much. And definitely in the 60s. So that was put down as his business address on here. And it's got a thing you can see $50 was paid to join the union. And there's a cool picture of the Stones over here on the left-hand side of it with Wolf from the performance. And then an actual real promotional photo of Wolf from Chess, not a reproduction. That's actually one from back in the day. And then it's really cool on the back of this, you actually have the receipt too that was kept, and I'll get some close-ups of that. So just a really cool piece. You can also see on there, this was in the Experience Hendrix Music Project in Seattle, and then it made its way out here to Chicago. I remember seeing this in the Museum of Science and Industry. And it's been in a lot of blues museums and stuff. I was very lucky to get this piece through some people I know, and I thank them for that. It's an honor for me to have this. It's a really cool piece. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to read some things here. I wrote an article all about this performance with the Stones on Shindig and stuff years ago. It was published in print and online in many formats, which was an honor for me to have that happen as well. Let me just read you some stuff about this actual piece right here that was listed in a lot of the museums, just to kind of describe what it was. Historic application for membership to the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, AFTRA, signed by Howlin Wolf as both Wolf and his legal name, Chester Burnett. This union application was filled out May 18th, 1965, on the occasion of Wolf's appearance with the Rolling Stones on the U.S. television program Shindig. The Stones had been invited to play the show, but refused to appear unless the show also invited their idol, Howlin Wolf. While Wolf's music wasn't the typical Shindig fare, the producers were desperate enough to give in to the band's demand, and so Wolf appeared. This application, signed by Howlin Wolf with both his legal and professional names, that's Chester Burnett, his real name, and of course Howlin Wolf, his stage name, has been filled out in another hand and lists his address as 2120 South Michigan Avenue in Chicago, home of the legendary Chess Studios. It has been archivally framed with a photograph of Wolf on Shindig with the Stones sitting at his feet and a vintage Chess Records promotional photo of Wolf. During 2003-2004, it was exhibited as part of Sweet Home Chicago, a museum exhibition on Chicago blues, which originated at Seattle's Experience Music Project and then traveled to Chicago's Museum of Science and Industry, with its final stop at the Delta Blues Museum in Clarksdale, Mississippi. So, very cool piece here. It's traveled around. Like I said, I remember seeing it and being like, wow, that's so cool. And a lot of people I know would hear me say that all the time because I love Howlin Wolf. And luckily, through those people, I was able to get hooked up with this piece and now own it. And it's a real honor for me because to me, and I always say this, there's blues singers and there's Howlin Wolf. B.B. King, obviously, you guys know. Anybody that knows me, I was out with him for a long time and was super close with Sid Seidenberg, his manager, and that whole group. So this might sound strange to say, but I almost don't even put Beebe in that cat. He's in such a different category for me. I don't even compare him with the others, really. It's just, he's got his own thing going on because I had such a close relationship with that whole group. But as far as just general blues singers as a category, Howlin Wolf has his own category to me. I don't put anybody else in there with him. I mean, even Sam Phillips, who discovered Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, and ran Sun Records in Memphis, said when he was asked his number one discovery, everybody thought he was going to say Elvis, and he said Chester Burnett, Howlin Wolf, and I totally agree. I don't. To me, Wolf was in a league all his own. I mean, that voice, the first time I ever heard it, and I've heard a lot of people say this, I was scared. Was like, what is that? You know, it's just, it pops out of the speaker, so much power. There's stories about Sam Phillips recording him, and it just, you know, he'd be back in the control room just turning everything down because the needle was just buried in the red because, man, Wolf just came out and he just had it, man. There was nobody else like him. So what I'm going to do, let me read you some of the article that I had published. Like I said, probably about a decade, 10 years ago or so now. This was published in print and online. It's been shared in various blues publications across the world. And again, I'm very proud of that. Put some shots of that up too, so you guys can see what the article looked like. Title of the article I wrote was Howlin Wolf Marries the Blues and Rock and Roll on Shindig. Okay, and here you go. Might seem kind of weird. I might put some pictures up or something here. We're on the TV Tray Sessions. It's a very laid-back thing. So grab your coffee. I'm going to maybe put some pictures up while I'm reading this article. It's pretty short and sweet, so hopefully you bear with me and just kind of look at the pictures while I'm reading to you guys, but make sure you got your Valhalla Java. Delicious. Okay. The blues in American culture. It has become more widely visible over the last 20 years or so. For those of us who love the blues, we'd still like to see it become even more visible. However, there was a time when seeing an American blues man on the television networks of his own homeland was unheard of. It's difficult to imagine rare things on television in the days of 2011 America. That's when this came out, so it's 2023 now. This was a while ago, 12 years, wow. Anyway, it seems we've pretty much seen everything there is to be seen and then some. But step into my time machine, if you will, and let's travel back to the year 1965, May 20th, 1965 to be exact. Shindig was an American musical variety show which featured various musical acts including Sam Cooke, Sonny and Cher, and Bo Diddley. The show debuted in September 1964 and ran through January of 1966. Among the musicians in its fantastic house band at various times were James Burton, Leon Russell, Glen Campbell, and Billy Preston. On this particular day of May 20th, 1965, a relatively new act from England called the Rolling Stones were scheduled to appear. The Stones requested that their idol be on the show with them. That man's name was Chester Burnett, also known as Howlin Wolf. In 1965, American television was very tame and strict. It needed something to shake its foundations a little and to reveal to the public where rock and roll's roots really were. Howlin Wolf did just that and then some. Wasting no time at all, Mr. Burnett grabbed us by the throat and greeted television watchers with how many more years. Wolf pointed his finger and shook around like nothing Americans had ever seen, all while teenagers and the Stones sat at his feet clapping and egging him on. Simply amazing. It had been a long road for Howlin Wolf. From his early days of recording in Memphis' Sun Studio to his legendary chess recordings, Wolf was in a unique situation. On one hand, he was a veteran. Already a seasoned performer, he had played everywhere and anywhere imaginable. He had already proved himself several times over. On the other hand, he was about to be exposed to a huge part of America who had never witnessed anything like what he had to offer. It was as if he was a new artist, debuting for the first time. Wolf already had an audience of his own that followed his work and knew him well. After his Shindig performance, however, this new audience started to seek him out as well. Now, new recording projects specifically aimed at this market would present themselves. The London Howlin Wolf sessions would be the top one I could think of. And Wolf started to notice suburban youths showing up at his shows in the Chicago clubs in which he performed. As the 1960s progressed, the public, and certainly young people, became more and more aware of rock and roll's blues foundation, largely due to the popularity of British groups and their acknowledgement of the blues and its impact on their music. So to look back at this era from 2011, or 2023, when this is being recorded, and try to pinpoint the one major episode where Americans were finally slapped once and for all with the reality of the power of the blues and all it had to offer, I have to believe that Howlin Wolf's appearance on Shindig is it. Think about it. The Rolling Stones, representing youth, presented with one of the founding fathers of rock and roll, the mighty Howlin Wolf. American culture would never be the same, and by decade's end, a list of who's who in rock and roll were acknowledging the blues legend as their mentors and idols. Blues legends, I should have said. The world would never be the same. If you haven't already seen it, check out the excellent DVD documentary on Howlin Wolf, The Howlin Wolf Story, The Secret History of Rock and Roll. The Shindig footage is shown here, and there are countless interviews with many important people in Wolf's life, including the great Hubertsumlin, 2011 and 2023 is a long ways from 1965, but on that 20th day of May, the great Howlin Wolf solidified the defining moment that would bring the blues to mainstream America. The world would thankfully never be the same. Thank you, Howlin Wolf. All right, so like I said, I'm going to put a clip of that, like a PDF, JPEG picture up so you guys can freeze it. And stuff too, and I might actually put a link to that where you can just click on it and read it. But that actually is how the article looked, published in a lot of blues magazines. I guess in 2011. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it has. So I'm very proud of that. And that DVD, I know it's also on YouTube now. You can watch the whole thing. It's called The Howlin Wolf Story, The Secret History of Rock and Roll. Just a great video. It talks all about Wolf and how he came up. And it's probably about an hour and a half long. And it shows the Shindig footage, but again, you can just find the Shindig footage on its own now. You can see like Brian Jones and Mick Jagger and them talking before they get on, and basically they just say, all right, I think it's time we shut up now, and you shut up, the guy running the show, and let's get the Wolf on here. And it's just so cool that they did that. To me, that was the moment, because like I say in the article, late 60s kicked in, you had Cream, all these blues rock was at its peak by then. But if you go back to 1965, Paul Butterfield Blues Band would be one that I would acknowledge, with Mike Bloomfield and Elvin Bishop. They certainly were going at that time. Yardbirds, Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels with Jim McCarty. Those guys were already doing blues rock. And Shindig with the Stones was, to me, the moment where in 1965 it just hit America, and by the time the late 60s came, it was like blues rock was a whole genre unto itself. So pretty cool that they did that, and it's very cool to have this piece here. So like I said, I'm going to put some close-ups. I already have filming this, and then I'm going to go back and put the pictures in. So I don't know where they're going to be or when they're going to be. There might be one up now, but check those out. I'm going to get some close-ups and zoom in on this and see stuff. It's a very cool piece. A lot of the handwriting's light, but from what people have told me, it was light when Wolf signed it. So it hasn't really faded. This stays out of the light, and it's in UV protected glass as well, so it's just always been like that, the light signature, from what various sources have told me, and it's held up well since 1965, but it's archivally framed and matted, and it's just an honor for me to have this, because I'm such a Howlin Wolf fan, and such a Hubert fan. Hubertsumlin, I was lucky to know Hubert and was around him several times. He was always super cool to me, and obviously had great stories. But love Hubert. Hubert was one of those guys where, a quick story about him. I remember being around him at a show, and talking to him quite a bit, because I would always run into Hubert, and then there was like the horde of people that came up and wanted to get stuff signed, and Hubert always did that, always made time for everybody, talked to him and whatnot. And then he was the kind of guy that the minute the line of people would kind of die down or whatever, if you were talking to him before that happened, I remember him like looking around, and he'd catch my eye and be like, and he'd wave you back over, and that just always made me feel so good. It was like there was never any star status with Hubert. He just, if you wanted to talk Wolf and music and guitars, Hubert was your man. He's just a super great guy. It's so great to say I knew him while he was on this planet. But anyways, you guys, please comment below. Let me know what you think. Have you seen the Shindig footage with the Stones? Did you know Hubert? Did you see Hubert while he was still on this planet? Did you see Wolf while I was on this planet? I never did. Was too young, but boy, I sure do wish I would have. But definitely, have you seen the DVD, The Secret History of Rock and Roll? Comment about that. Let me know what you think. Please hit that subscribe button, you guys, in the lower right-hand corner. Help me out. I really appreciate it. I'm always working to get my subscribers up. Spread the word. We post weekly here at Guitar Talk, sometimes more than weekly. Find us on Facebook at toddbeebemusic. And we will see you guys again. Thank you so much for checking in. Stay safe and love your dogs. Take care.